Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'm reviewing Enola Holmes 2, now streaming on Netflix. So Enola Holmes 2 is the sequel to the really popular Enola Holmes that came out in 2020, and that movie was one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. I didn't know what to expect from it being kind of this new spin-off IP. I always loved the Sherlock Holmes franchise. All the different movies that have come out have always been so interesting and well done, and I think this series is no exception. The second film, we were watching Enola Holmes try to set up her own detective agency. She's trying to get out of the shadow of her brother Sherlock, and in this film she's trying to find a missing girl who is working at a match factory and slowly discovers there is a big interweaving conspiracy happening with this industry. I have to say right away, this film I feel is just as good as the first film. It definitely has a bigger budget, has some big action set pieces, some new stars, some new visual effects. One of my only criticisms with the first movie is I felt like some of the CGI looked a little wonky. It looked a little weird seeing the background settings or kind of the wide shots of London. I think this movie does a little bit better job with that, but I think where this movie excels even more than the first film is the big action scenes. In particular, there's a scene where they're going through a wagon chase and they're going through the wilderness and there's this kind of this big epic chase happening. There's also a big fight that happens in a theater, and I thought that was really well done. The fight choreography in these movies is always really fun and entertaining. I think it's something that makes it stand out a little bit. And this one again is directed by Harry Bradbeer, who I think does a really good job of doing that really quippy humor, that kind of fun fourth wall breaking. And Millie Bobby Brown again is really, charming and likable in this while still being kind of tough and scrappy. I love the kind of dynamic between her and Sherlock. Henry Cavill Sherlock I think is phenomenal. It's a different take on Sherlock. Obviously, I loved Benedict Cumberbatch and Robert Downey Jr. and everyone that's come before, but I really enjoy him in this franchise, and I can't wait to see if they continue to use him moving forward. They kind of set up some prospects with him coming up against kind of his arch nemesis, if you know anything about the Sherlock universe. And I feel like this sequel has a little bit of everything for everyone. It has a lot of action, it has a lot of comedy. I feel like it also has a little bit of romance thrown into it. I liked particularly the chemistry between Millie Bobby Brown and Louis Patricks, who plays Tewksbury. So I think that it all comes together to have a really cohesive, fun story, just like the first film. Like any good Sherlock Holmes story, there's a lot of twisting and turning that's happening in this one. I think it comes together really well at the end of the film, having all these loose threads being pulled together and weaved together to kind of have a satisfying twist ending, if you will. Obviously, the Victorian aesthetic of these movies is also very well executed. I think the production design, whether it's the costuming or the sets, looks really fun and interesting. I think they did a good job of immersing you in this time period while still keeping it kind of fresh and modern. In fact, this movie does have some kind of more modern sensibilities when it comes to its theming. Obviously, the first film also did a little bit involving, women empowerment and having Enola kind of stand out on her own. This movie continues that, but also builds upon kind of the fighting for justice during industrialization, like labor rights and things like that, and women in the workplace. So I think they did a good job of doing that without hitting you over the head with it or feeling very preachy. It feels very entertaining while still having those underlying themes that kind of prop it up just a little bit than just like a normal kind of action adventure mystery movie. I did really enjoy seeing David Thewlis as a character in this film, playing a character named Grail. He's this detective that's kind of seedy, and he plays this a really good villain by the end of the movie. I know it's a little bit of a spoiler, but pretty early on this is not a good guy, but I'm not going to go into too much what happens with his character, but I think he does a great job of just being menacing and just such a great foil to our heroes. So if I were to rate Enola Holmes 2, I would give it the same rating I gave the first film, which is a 9 out of 10. It is just such a fun, refreshing movie. It may not be the most deepest thing in the world, but I do think the themes of this one kind of excel even more than the first one. But the action's bigger, the adventure's bigger, the effects look better, and the acting is still just as good as the first one. So if you checked out Enola Holmes 2, let me know what you thought about it. Did you like it as much as I did? How does it compare to the first film for you? Leave those comments down below. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.